I've been working on a side project for about the past month, and it's been competing with my other side projects for time and workbench space, so I'm going to put a bow on this one tonight, publish a video so I can work on some other things. First, I want to point out that I am not a doctor or any other type of medical professional. I'm probably going to put that somewhere on the screen as a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional, so don't relay any of the ideas that you see here as any kind of official medical advice. This is a woodworking channel. I talk about woodworking, and apparently lately I also talk a little bit about coronavirus stuff. But again, woodworking channel, I'm not a doctor. I just spent the past hour with my face strapped to this hot air machine with my phone and that mount right there so I could watch an episode of Lost in Space on Netflix to stay entertained. I'll get back to this part in a minute. First, for some background, about a year ago I wanted to build a kiln for drying wood, so I bought some supplies, including this thermostat switch. You set the temperature on the bottom and plug something into it, and when it gets below that temperature the thing turns on, and when it hits the temperature it turns off. So that goes to the heater in the back there. So I didn't know if my idea for a wood drying kiln was going to work, but I wanted to try it since I have a lot of nice plum wood there, for example, that I cut myself that I would like to dry up. Anyway, I have a few too many side projects, so I didn't get around to building that, and then the whole coronavirus outbreak of 2020 started, and I got another idea that ended up using the same materials. At some point, I think it was around February, maybe March, the medical professionals, again, of which I am not one, said that the virus did not like heat. So a lot of people started doing things such as drinking hot liquids, taking hot baths, spending time in a hot sauna, or even blowing a hairdryer in their face, just trying to react to that news that it didn't like heat. I don't know exactly what triggered that because I wasn't really tracking it too closely at the time, but with each of those approaches, I think it was the CDC or somebody was pretty quick to come back with some information saying that you shouldn't try those things. 'Cause obviously, drinking hot liquids or gargling with hot liquids, it's only going to heat it very temporarily. Taking a hot bath is going to heat the outside of your body more, but again, if the virus is in your mouth, nose, throat, and lungs, then the heat isn't going to soak all the way into that, into your respiratory system. And a sauna is going to heat your entire body excessively. You'll end up getting overheated, and you'll at some point end up drinking some cool liquids to make yourself feel better. And as far as blowing a hairdryer in the face, you're just going to dry your face out and burn it. That's too hot to really be sustainable. Right now it's April, and there are still plenty of actual medical professionals, again, I am not one of them, theorize that the virus is going to maybe start to fizzle out in the summer when the temperatures go up. And if you look at a map of the world, like where the virus is really active, you can see an obvious horizontal band across the globe. And if you put on an overlay of a temperature map, you'll see kind of a pattern there. Now, one counter argument is that the virus is also present in several areas with higher temperatures, such as Ecuador. But if you look at some of those areas, there are some counter arguments to that as well. Like in Ecuador, for example, the worst outbreaks are in a very densely populated city. And just because the air outside is hot does not necessarily mean that the air inside is hot. So just think about what you do when you get sick. If you start to get a fever and not feel well, you're going to go inside and not stay out in the hot outdoor air. But also another piece of supporting evidence to the heat theory is the early fever. So normally the body will do a fever, I think, to try to cook the virus out. So something about heat seems to be relevant, but it just seems like not everybody or anybody really knows exactly what so far. So I had a hypothesis based on all of this, and that if the virus doesn't like the heat, and if it's present in the mouth, nose, throat, and lungs, it would make sense to heat those areas, and those areas only, to make the virus feel uncomfortable and maybe not spread as aggressively. I don't think this would be a cure or anything. I just wonder if it would. I was just curious if this might be something that could be used to help treatment. Now, you look at the other treatments that are being used right now, and it's a ventilator, which is just a machine that pushes oxygenated air into the lungs with regulated pressure and concentration. So it's not an incredibly complicated device. In fact, there was a doctor at the University of Minnesota, I think Dr. Richardson, I think, an anesthesiologist who made some ventilators for the hospital using just stuff from the hardware store. So again, it doesn't have to be complicated to be effective, but for all the other things people have tried, I haven't really heard a lot about just heating the respiratory system to include nose, mouth, throat, lungs without heating the rest of the body. Your body doesn't really have any other means of heating your respiratory tract because you're always breathing the air that's around you. So it's the same temperature as whatever environment you're in, which might be an air-conditioned house. So I would be interested in seeing some research on how quickly people recovered, categorized by the actual temperature that they're in, day out, whether it's office, house, or outdoor. I don't know if that's been done. I haven't been following closely enough to know, and I don't have access to all the medical information, obviously, because once again, not a doctor. This is a woodworking channel, but be interesting to see if there are any trends in recovery rates for people who were in a continually hot environment versus people who are in, go inside and hang out in the air conditioning. So going back to the beginning of this video, this contraption is intended to provide heated air to the mouth, nose, throat, and lungs where the virus is present and allow the rest of the body to stay at a comfortable temperature. It can also be used to dry lumber, although right now not very large pieces of lumber, which I'm going to fix later. At least now I know that it works. So just to give a quick overview of how this thing works, let's see. This right here, I bought this about a year ago for making the kiln. This is a thermostat switch. I set the temperature there, and it has a heating plug and a cooling plug or outlet, and a heating outlet and a cooling outlet. So I set the temperature to 140 and plugged in a space heater, which I bought for the wood kiln. And right now that's in the back there. And the space heater is blowing the hot air into the tube. And this thing also has on the side a temperature sensor, which is down inside this piece of duct. I put on some of this foil-faced insulation because I was losing too much heat. The version 1 was actually in this Tupperware a Rubbermaid box or Sterlite. I had the space heater in here blowing in, and then I had coming out of the top. First I tried let's see, a washing machine drain hose, and I also tried with a dishwasher drain hose, and those are kind of rigid and hard to use. And then I ordered some CPAP hoses, and these are a lot more flexible. However, the problem ended up being with all three is that in the length of this hose, I would lose 30 degrees of temperature from here to the face piece. So that didn't work out. I ended up just scrapping these. And then this guy has, let's see, this is the mouthpiece that's made from an apple juice container. Let's see if I can remove this tape, because I put this on in the middle of the test because I was losing a little bit of heat in the neck here. There we go. That's just some flashing. I have a fan in here. There's a secondary fan. There's a fan on that space heater in the back, which conveniently fit perfectly in that 8-inch tubing, or ducting rather. And then in the front, inside this piece, I have a computer. It's a fan for cooling, like an audio-visual cabinet, and that's just giving a little assist to blow the air out through here. And the air comes through this apple juice container, but I have a piece of aluminum flashing right there that acts as a little bit of a baffle. You see there's another sensor right there. This is what the temperature sensor looks like. That's being read. So this is measuring the temperature that it's set to, and the temperature on the bottom is, or no, on the top is measuring the temperature inside the tube here. And then this one is going to another sensor. I ordered another one of these a couple weeks ago, and that's going to here to actually measure the air coming out of the face piece. So this is a lower temperature. When I actually put it on my face, even if it's 140 over here, it's usually around 110 to 115 over here. I got some tape over the bottom number because I'm not using the cooling switch or any kind of control on there. Let's see. So it's usually cooler here just because there's some air exchange. On the top, I cut a hole and put that flap on the top there is a piece of one of my physical therapy elastic bands, so that when I breathe out, the carbon dioxide is released through here. So I breathe in the hot air, and then on the exhale, the carbon dioxide is expelled through that way. I could have ordered a face mask, but this was working well enough. I just got some foam insulation around the outside. It's surprisingly comfortable. I've never tried wearing an apple juice container before. I was impressed. And then I have a bra strap for one of my wife's bras for hooking it on to hooking it around the back of my head, so it was a little bit stable. And it was pretty comfortable. So I breathed this thing for about an hour while I had my phone in that mount there watching a show. The only thing that I would complain about is that it was a little dry. I felt like my nose and my throat were drying out a little bit. Not too bad. It's pulling in the back. It's pulling in air from the room, so it's whatever the humidity level in the room is. Probably wouldn't need a humidifier internally, although it could. But could just run a humidifier in the same room as well, raise the overall room humidity level. But not too bad. Like I said, an hour breathing 115 degree air, give or take. You would not do very well in a 115 degree actual environment. If you were in an area where the outside temperature was 115 degrees, you'd very quickly overheat. But I had this on for an hour, and my body temperature stayed at 98 because the body will regulate itself. There was just some hotter air going into my lungs. I think I probably could have gone up to maybe 100, maybe 120, 125 with humidity, increased humidity levels, and still been pretty comfortable. It still wouldn't have raised my own body temperature anyway. Well, that's all I got. That was a fun project from start to finish. I got to play around with electronics a little bit, which I don't get to do as frequently as I'd like. I had to figure out how to disable the overheat protection in that heater because they're designed so that if you kick a blanket onto it in the middle of the night or something, it won't catch on fire. It's a nice feature to have, but I didn't need it for this experiment. I got this up to 140 degrees and ran it like that for about 3 hours, and it didn't give any indications of catching on fire, so that was good. I think it's going to work out great for making a kiln for drying wood, and I look forward to making another video on that later. As for the other possible intended purpose, once again, not a doctor. In fact, I think that nothing I did in this video really relates to my full-time profession. I'm just a dude in the garage with some ideas, but ideas are worth discussing. So I'm curious if anybody who has any experience in the matter knows if there have been any studies into how the temperature of the air that somebody breathes, not just the temperature of their surroundings, like room temperature, but the temperature of the air that they breathe affects their recovery rate from a virus or from a flu or something like that. So as opposed to getting into a hot bath and warming yourself from the outside in, this is breathing warm air and heating yourself from the inside out. I don't know if it would make any kind of a difference, but it seems like it should. So I'm just interested in if anybody has any information about that. Feel free to correct me or post some links down below. I will take a look at it. And lastly, I would like to say that I see a lot of cars on the road lately. A lot of people are out and about. We've heard some news lately that we might be reaching a peak and that we've started to flatten the curve in some of the areas that have been hit hard by the coronavirus. I guess everybody's celebrating by going out and having a good time. That's like popping your head out of a foxhole just because the bullets stop coming for a little while, all right? Be smart. We can still make this a lot worse. So we stayed inside for several weeks and flatten the curve a little bit. It should go without saying that if we start to go out again before we're given the all clear, that 2 or 3 weeks from now, all the people that have gotten infected this weekend are going to start to show symptoms and the curve is going to go back up. So please be careful, please be smart, make sure that everybody around you is being smart, And thanks for watching. Have a great day.